obviously everybody is looking at how do you really outthink in the market that we live today, environment we live today. Everybody's looking at how do I innovate and be ahead of the curve. And that's what this quick peek webinar is into. Although as they say, picture abhi baki hai, the real movie is on 27th morning, the first half, 9:30 to 1:30. Kaihan personally would be there at Jio Convention as part of our annual summit, FutureScope. And I hope to see many of you there. We thought it'd be a good idea to give you a quick perspective on what this session is all about on 27th. Just to give you a quick introduction of Kaihan, I've known of him for about 13, 14 years. And I've been reading his book and researching his book. He doesn't know that, but I consider him as my guru in innovation and strategy. There's a lot of work that I do. And I must tell the audience here that it's been 3 years I've been chasing him to get him to India. I think finally I've been able to pin him down to get him here. So he's a CEO of, obviously, as you would have probably, some of you would have seen his URL. He is a business thinker, author, strategy, innovation guru. He's recognized as a top 30 global thinkers in strategy and innovation. He worked for McKinsey and decided to give up his corporate career and become an academician, researcher, consultant, and works with hundreds of Fortune 1000 companies. And obviously, he's still teaching in some of the top B schools around the world. The objective of this next 30 minutes, very quickly, is, actually 20 minutes, and we can probably take questions at the end, is give you a very quick, as I said, a quick insight, very like overview on the groundbreaking research that he's been doing for over 2 decades on innovation and outthinking and strategy, right? Also, I think a lot of us believe that innovation is only for handful, and I am not cut out for that. There's a myth around that. It's not accidental. I think we want to demystify that it is innovation or outthinking. It's not a rate to any specific leaders or companies. Anybody can, as long as you apply a process. And that's what Kaihan will talk about. That there's a science to the entire innovation and science to outthinking. And very quickly from Kaihan's word, Kaihan's by the master himself, we'll learn what is this research that he's been doing over years. And how do we really apply? What kind of process we apply to really outthink the market? Right. This quote is from the book, and I thought I'll just quickly take this quote off and give you some perspective on what he has been talking about in outthinking. It says, you must make a few strategic choices that will so disorient the competition that they will not be able to respond effectively. So do something that is not me too. So do something which is beyond the competition is doing. Outthink and be 3-4 years ahead of the curve so that the competition can take several years to catch up. That's what outthinking is all about, and I'm sure Kaihan will talk more about it, and I'll share some examples as we go by. Some examples within the country of how companies in India have really done outthinking. Of course, we hear of Apple, Google, Amazon, Teslas all the time of doing outthinking, and therefore they are. I can't even say billions, they're hundreds of billions of dollars or trillions of dollar market cap. So because they've really done outthinking. Quickly, some of you recall, I just not want to take the thunder away from Kaihan, but there have been historical outthinkers, right? While some people talked about sun rotates the earth, where Galileo talked about it, how earth rotates around the sun. Then Einstein, we all know how did he talk about outthinking, and they gave his theory on E equal to MC square. There have been warfare outthinker, people like Genghis Khan, where the army will fight in front, where he decided he's one of those Mughals who lived in the 12th and 13th century that surround your army, surround your enemy. Hunt as if you would hunt and go for the hunt. That's how he led the warfare. And so on and so forth. And the John Boyd Dunlop created a completely different outthinking on tires, and the tire became a different outthinking altogether. And Sam Walton, who built Walmart, while people will talk about stores in city centers, Walmart decided that the stores have to be in the suburbs, and so on and so forth. And we all know the Dell story, that how it's not about the Dell selling through retailers and dealers, it's sell direct to the customers and customize it to the customer's needs. And so on. So there are lots of, I don't want to talk about too many, but some of the very interesting examples on outthinking, how some of the Indian outthinkers like Aryabhatta changed the entire concept of mathematics and zero. How Shivaji Maharaj, again, like Genghis Khan, changed the entire warfare tactics to guerrilla warfare, outthinking. How Vikram Sarabhai Again, where people talked about that India can't afford, the poor country, third world nation, and can't afford science, change the entire space research, and probably we manufacture the cheapest rockets in the world today. How Jamshedji Tata, when British talked about the steel has to be imported, said, let's build India's finest steel plant in Jamshedpur, and so on and so forth. And how software can't be global, or India can't do that. And Infosys founder Narayan Murthy changed the entire perspective on becoming a global IT leader. Right, and of course, these are all some of the faces and names that we all know, which are outthinker today. One of my favorites, Ritesh Agarwal Oyo, who's the third largest hotelier in the world. And of course, all of these are outthinkers, whether second generation or third generation or even first generation, but brilliant outthinking. Zoho, I'm sure a lot of you are using Zoho. How Sridhar Vembuk has completely created easy to use and created $1 billion empire in the last 15 years. A lot of outthinkers. Right. I'm going to, before I hand over, just a very beautiful quote by Mahatma Gandhi. He said, typically, this is what happens with outthinkers. First, people ignore you, then people laugh at you, and then they will figure out that you have really done something very different, and they start copying you. And that's how you win. Right. I'm going to hand it over to Kaihan to talk about the outthinker pattern. I know I'm managing the slide, so Kaihan, I'll keep managing the slides for you while you focus on your beautiful black and red earpiece and speak to the audience.
So great, thank you.
Yes,
thank you. Yeah, so such a thrill to be here with you. Yeah, I think we just pull up the Gandhi quote, or we remember the Gandhi quote. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. I point to the fact that when we talk about strategy, when we learn strategy in business schools, I think that we make a mistake to say that we must do something that our competitors cannot do. It almost never is the case that a company that disrupts, that grows rapidly, does something their competitors can't do. They do something that their competitors don't conceive of first, then that is something that their competitors won't consider, and then the competitors will consider it, but they will choose not to do it, often for logical reasons. And it's only after they choose not to do it for a while that ultimately they can't do it. So to get to competitive advantage, we need to follow Gandhi's advice and do something that our competitors will ignore and laugh at. So how do we do that? Now let's just unpack the whole next slide, if you don't mind. So the pattern is this, that the competition goes rigid. They're successful, and then they start following into a pattern. And then an outthinker emerges and says, there's a way to do this differently. And they, therefore, because they approach from a different a frame, which we'll talk about in a moment, as one of the 5 habits of outthinking, they approach the problem with a different frame. Then they see a fourth option. A fourth option is the option beyond the obvious options, the option beyond the ones that your competitors are considering. And then they launch that fourth option. Customers love it, but competitors ignore and laugh at it. And then ultimately the outthinker wins. And we can explain almost every business concept, strategic concept, as creating this, whether that is the blue ocean, which is to pursue a customer segment that your competitors don't view as part of the market, whether that's disruption, which is to target a customer segment that your competitors view as not valuable with a product or service that they don't view as very competitive, but that gives you a beachhead to grow, whether that's Sun Tzu saying, taking whole, you attack your enemy and they just open the gates, there's no loss, there's no bloodshed. All of these strategic concepts are meant to cause this outthinker pattern. So I think I've covered that.
Yep.
So some of the challenges to outthinking the competition. Number one is you have to recognize where people have stopped thinking, where they started repeating themselves, where they've grown rigid. And then you have to find a strategic option that others are ignoring. That requires coming up with lots and lots of options. So if you join the conference and workshop, what we're going to do is we're not going to generate 4 or 5 possible strategic options. When I was at McKinsey, kind of the standard was to come up with 3 hypotheses and then analyze those hypotheses. What we're going to do is we're going to come up with 40, 50. It is common that people come up with nearly 200 possible options. And then you go sort through them to figure out which strategy is truly superior, not only because customers will love it, but also importantly, because competitors will ignore and laugh at it. And then you also do things to slow down your competitor's ability to copy your option. Again, often that's because they choose not to rather than they can't.
Yep.
And so kind of the last thing I think I'll share here is there are 5 steps that we're going to cover. And I believe all models are wrong. Some are useful. I forced this into this framework of IDEAS just to make it easy for us to remember. When you're looking for a 4th option, and that the future of your business will depend, as we'll give examples of, Ashish will give examples of, every great company was grounded in one or multiple 4th options. The future of your company depends on the 4th options that you create today. And the way to do that is to imagine, dissect, expand, analyze, and sell. So I'll just briefly cover these 5. First, under imagine, what we're doing here is we're practicing mental time travel. That is, we're stepping out into the future and we're imagining a different future. And unfortunately, our traditional strategic approaches discourage this type of thinking. When we do a SWOT analysis, when we analyze past performance and project future performance based off of past performance, we are basing our strategic goals on the past, which is to say that we're setting goals that we know we can achieve based off of what we have done before, which robs us and our team from the necessity to think differently. Next habit, after we've imagined the future, the next habit is to dissect the problem, dissect the business model, dissect the system, and practice this habit of attacking the interconnected system. Often what outthinkers do is they focus on a different part of the problem. Elon Musk, for example, when he didn't launch, but when he bought and he pursued Tesla, his mission was to cause this energy transition to sustainable energy. But everyone else, or most people, were attacking the source of the source of energy, right? Looking at new and improving new, more sustainable energy sources, whether that is wind or solar. And what he decided to do instead was attack a different part of the problem, which is use of energy. And a big part of the use of energy are cars. And so he wanted to transfer that and create a demand for more sustainable energy or electrical energy, which can make sustainable energy more competitive. After you've done that, you dissect the problem, you choose to focus on an area that others are ignoring, then you expand. And that's what we're primarily going to look at, is practicing this practice of frame shifting, shifting your perspective many, many, many times on the problem to reveal new options. Should we get there first? What if we got there second? Should we expand? Should we contract? Can we go to coordinating things? Can we create things out of nothing? There are 36 different frames that we can use to expand our option set and naturally see options that others don't see. Once we've created all these options, we need to practice the next habit, which is adopting a disruptive mindset, which is there is this tendency to want to do what looks successful, what is successful currently. And what we want to do instead is we want to sort through the ideas in a particular way to practice this disruptive mindset and isolate the ideas that your competitors will love, but also that your customers will love, but also that your competitors will ignore and laugh at. And there's a certain technique to do that. And then finally, the last one, sell, is about shaping perceptions, because the resulting strategy will depend on your employees understanding it, your partners, your suppliers, your board. What we need to do is we need to learn how to shape their perspective so they see the natural beauty in the idea. So we're practicing mental time travel, attacking the interconnected system, frame shifting, adopting a disruptive mindset, and shaping perceptions, IDEAS. And I'm just going to give a little double click under dissect. This is Apple's revenue. You can go, I'm showing the Apple's are perfect. If we look at Apple's revenue, they don't start scaling until 30 years after their founding. If we compare their pattern of growth to Amazon's, if we go to the next slide, and we line up Amazon and Apple's revenue with year one being the point of founding. Do you mind just going to the next slide, Ashish? Great. So now what we see is Amazon scales much earlier. What happens? In 2002, 2003, Apple takes 30 years to kind of catch on to this. And it's not coincidental that that coincides with when they change their name from Apple Computer to Apple. And then they start innovating across many, many dimensions of their business model. Amazon, however, does that much earlier. And so what we're going to dive into are 9 different areas to look for fourth options. If we go to the next slide. The first is positioning, which is, let's just, as I lay these out quickly, just imagine you're looking for a fourth option in your business. And there are 9 doors that we can look down. One door you can look down is positioning. Who's our core customer and what does our brand mean to them? The next one is, yeah, let's just do it all. Product or service. What product or service attributes should we outperform on and which should we underperform on? And then promotion. How can we do something interesting in marketing and sales to get them through the funnel? I believe that customer acquisition cost, if we look at many companies that have scaled, is the most important thing. So we really should be looking at fourth options under promotion. Pricing. Can we play around with who pays, on what our pricing structure is, when they pay, what the effort is to pay? Now, we could say that streaming, Netflix introduced video streaming, and ride sharing is just simply a pricing strategy. Instead of charging per rental, we charge per month, right? So pricing is a powerful place to look, but often we don't look at pricing because we assume that the pricing of the industry defines what our pricing should be. Placement. What channels? Are there ponds that we can fish in that we're not currently fishing in? The physical experience. Our customers only understand us through what they see, smell, hear, taste, touch. So how can we transform the physical experience to create an advantage? I think Indigo Airlines is an example of a company that thought very creatively about the overall physical experience, which was also empowered by the next one, which is process. How we operate, the key processes are the changes we can make that can change the physical experience and change our placement and change our pricing and promotion and product and positioning. And then we go to people. I put people towards the bottom because it is one of the most important, not the least important. Who do you hire? How do you recruit? How do you organize? What are your incentive structures? What are your cultural values? And then purpose. Do you have clarity and clarity of purpose on a purpose that activates support? And so these are 9 different areas. And the thing is, your competition is probably only looking at a few of them. Industries tend to focus in on, they fall into this pattern of looking at just a few of these. When you recognize what your industry is primarily competing on, and then you open one of these other doors, those become doors that no one's looked through. You're more likely to find a fourth option.
Khan, since you talked about Indigo, it's one of my most favorite examples because I remember when Indigo came, the 2 airlines, Jet Airways and Kingfishers, were ruling the roost in the country. And they had like almost 60-70% market share apart from Air India or Indian Airlines. Right. And Indigo, obviously, and I know you consulted with them long back. So, how they, how they innovated because while Jet and Kingfisher positioning was very clear, is high-end customer experience and so on and so forth. And I think Indigo really focused on processes and about pricing. That we want to give a cheap and on-time flight from point A to point B. And I think, and rest is history. Though they might have to do some outthinking again because kind of in the last couple of years they are losing a bit, but they're still 50% market share in the country in the aviation industry.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. So much we can learn from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's just an aspect that I think, and you know the case, I think, better than I do, but it does seem that they also adopted one of these 36 frames that we're going to apply is called is called lure the enemy onto your roof.
Yeah.
You pursue a strategy that if your competitors were to copy you, they would have to abandon an old model, and they're unable to adjust their strategy to a low-cost model while they're also trying to deliver the other model. So you lure them onto the roof and they leave their old model behind, and then they can't go back to their old model.
Well, the leaders of the group, and there are 200 plus leaders of the group right now. I must share that, I'll be meeting my guru after many, many years for the first time when he comes into India next week. But I've been using this 9P model, obviously, under his license. And there are a lot of companies in India that I work with, and I including some of the PSUs like LIC and so on and so forth, who were actually losing market share. And when the private insurers came in. And when we did the outthinking with them about 10, 12 years back, I mean, I think that they realized that they need to do something different. So did State Bank of India, and so did Vodafone, and so on and so forth. I work with. So this 9P is absolutely one of the most amazing model. And I know when Kaihan comes here on 27th, he'll go much more deeper into this. Right now, what he gave you is just a quick 3-minute. But imagine structuring your strategy around any of these 9Ps. And of course, you can't differentiate on all the 9Ps. We've got to figure out of these 9Ps. Of course, purpose is important. We need to find purpose. But the first 8 Ps, what are the 3 or 4 Ps that you want to really focus on to differentiate or outthink from the competition? Apple has done in their own way. For Apple, it doesn't matter. It's the physical experience that is most important. Therefore, their UX, EX for the entire design is most important. And therefore, they're positioning the mind that we are world's number one. So each company is looked at their own strategy, and therefore outthinking strategy. While you build your strategy on all the 8 Ps, the first 8, and of course, purpose is important. But each company has to figure out what are the 3 or 4 that I need to figure out, that I need to differentiate from the market or from my competition to be ahead of the curve. So, and I'm sure that Kaihan goes much more deeper because he's more mindful of time than I am. But when he goes deeper into the entire 9 Ps, it's an absolutely beautiful insight for all of us. Well, taking the cue, Kaihan, quickly, I put us together some of the companies that are really outcome, some of the companies you have consulted with. But this is something very interesting. Some of the local companies, domestic companies, all of you guys know Zepto, how they've changed the entire market perception. Though Dunzo, by the way, came in much earlier. If you all remember, until about 2 years back, we will say Dunzo it and Dunzo it. But Dunzo, even after raising $300 million, they are dead and gone. While Zepto with 10-minute grocery delivery have really ruling the roost. Whereas other logistics or e-commerce provider obviously take much longer lead time. So therefore, the lingo today of the new generation is let's Zepto it, right? Or we fast it or Zepto it. IKEA Global, Kaihan knows more about it or has done enough and more work with them, but outthinking, selling the flat packs, self-assembly furniture. We all have visited IKEA stores. We know that's a great outthinking. Zomato, great outthinking, Kaihan, in India. While the other food, and there are enough and more other, the online food providers. But what Zomato has done is, I think they've in the last few years, with due regards to Dipender Goyal, the way they have had strategic acquisitions and diversified, I think, and therefore we know that how large Zomato has become, and it's become Xerox for us, less Zomato the food, right? And the absolutely big name in grocery delivery, dining out, everything. They've really outthought the entire process. We know Spotify, and Kaihan again has worked with them, how they've offered tailored music experiences, which is based on personalized, totally algorithm-driven personalized playlist, as against other competition. We all know the YouTube, Amazon Music, and whatnot, enough and more music, right? Which is all focusing on music sales, downloads, ad-supported streaming, and so on. So Spotify has become the top of the name for anybody who's a music lover today. Right, we know this company. You know this company very well, Kaihan, Reliance, Mukesh Ambani.
Reliance.
Well, all the telecom providers were talking about expensive voice plans, limited data offering. Well, they did it 2 times. They offered when before the 4G, they offered extremely cheap phones, and now extremely incredibly low price, high speed internet data services. Right. I hope there's nobody from Reliance. Of course, there are questions on the services, but Jio come what may. I mean, they've changed the entire telecom space in the country. We all know SpaceX that while every other, including NASA and other, space launching companies were talking about single-use rocket, right? SpaceX and Khan already talked about the Tesla boss. I said how he decided that that rockets should be reusable. And so today, whether it's NASA or other or even Russian companies, they're using SpaceX for their space missions and so on and so forth. UPI is a great story in India, which the entire seamless real-time digital, right? The Zerodha, I'm sure enough and more people in the country know that how they've offered retail investors direct access to online stock trading, right, as against all the stockbroking companies and other PMSs and whatnot. Right. While this is very interesting, one of my favorite examples, while Uber, Ola has been ruling the roost, Uber particularly, right? While Uber doing whatever doing, but Rapido very quickly came and offered cost-effective bike services point to point, very cheap, affordable, small towns. Sometimes when you're in traffic, stuck in traffic, you can hitch your bike ride for a very low price and reach from one point to point A to point B. Right? And so on and so forth. There are enough and more, and I know there is 1% of the audience would love it. How some of the digital microfinance companies, Flexi Loans, IFL, how they're really, while banks are focusing on loans and SME loans and microfinance companies focusing on loans, but these online platforms, collateral-free loans, offering very quick loans, unbelievable the way they have changed the market. Sitting in Bombay office, I can offer loan to 20,000 pin codes across the country, right? So there have been lots of outthinking that has happened in the country and lots of leaders and companies, right, that have done outthinking. Right. So what we're going to do on 27th, this is what I'm sure Kaihan is going to leave you with. That choice is yours, whether you work on a strategy and think like an outthinker, or I will continue to work harder, invest more, go spend more hours, get more people, and keep at it, working with the old paradigms. And keep rowing harder and harder, while we know that our competition has got motorboats or put up new sails or whatever to depending on which way the wind is going, COVID, post-COVID, wars, etc. They know depending on the environment, socioeconomic conditions, you change gears, and that's what outthinking is all about. With that, I'm going to just stop here. If you have any questions, happy to take it. But since we are exactly on time, for those who are extremely time conscious, we have this 4-hour masterclass by Kaihan on 27th of September from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. At Jio Convention Centre. If anybody wants to register, if you register today, here's the QR code. You can quickly take a snapshot, register right now. And I haven't checked with Kaihan, but when he comes on 25th night, I'm going to send him a number of books to sign personally. You will get a personal signed copy by Kaihan, his book called Outthinking the Competition, as a free gift, those who register today. Kaihan, right. I didn't ask you this, but I hope you're okay to sign.
Yes, I love it. Love it. I love it.
All right. Questions, leaders, entrepreneurs, strategy guys, whoever on this group, anybody has any questions, happy to take any question. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing all of you on 27th, which is the Friday morning. It'll be a great Friday morning, I can tell you. 9:30 to 1:30, 4-hour session, followed by lunch, of course. Okay. When people don't have questions, there are two ways of thinking it, that people really got, this is excited, this is fantastic. Or they said, well, I have questions, but I want to think it over and come back to Kaihan. Either way is fine. Yes. You have questions? Kevin. Yes, Kevin raised his hand. Kevin, you want to answer? Kevin, you want to type the question? Can he speak or just type a question? Okay. Allow everybody to talk. Yes, Kevin?
Can I be heard?
Yes, you can. Kevin, how can somebody not hear you?
All right. I just took the opportunity since nobody else was asking the question. I'm definitely coming for the one on the 27th. So I'm looking forward to hearing and having a wonderful time. And I'll ask many questions then. But the quick question over here is that sometimes we speak of all these strategies. The question is that are we figuring out the strategy as by analyzing them, or is it that they have the strategy in place, they're announcing it, and the world is aware of it, and they are just ignoring it? That's my question.
Yeah, The era in which you could come up with a strategy and execute a strategy and your competitors wouldn't be aware of that, that's over. That's over. That you have to assume that your competition will understand your strategy. So the question is not about, I don't think you need a secret plan. If you have a business plan and you try to, and the success of your company depends on you keeping that plan secret, I think that you don't really have a disruptive strategy. It has to be a strategy when you introduce it, no one will follow. You know, I graduated many years ago with Elon Musk from the same university, and he saw the strategy of building rocket ships at a low cost because he saw that the government was going to start privatizing that part of the space program, and everyone knew that. I also then. After I interviewed him, I did a talk with a company that builds rocket ships and missiles and other kind of defense equipment. And they also saw what he was doing. They were aware of what he was doing. But the reason they didn't copy him is not because they didn't understand what he was doing. It was very clear. He was very blatant. He put it on his website, especially his strategy for Tesla has been on his website for a long time. It's that they see it and they just choose not to do it. And they don't only choose not to do it because they're dumb or because they don't they don't get it. It is because they logically choose to defend their core business rather than responding. There's some other reason why they will logically choose not to copy it.
Yeah, thanks, Kaihan. I'm sure Kevin, will certainly have several more questions when you meet him on 27th. A quick question there is by Nirav says, how would the process of innovation be taught through a workshop model? Yes, it will be a workshop. Of course, Kaihan can throw more light, but that's the question. Is it a workshop model?
Yep, it's a workshop model, and we're going to walk through those 5 steps and the 5 sub-steps of IDEAS, and you're going to get a workbook, and you're going to be able to like learn the steps, so it's repeatable. That's one thing that's about this we don't believe innovation is something you're innately born with. There is a science to it. There are some reasons why we tend to move away from disruptive ideas, and there are kind of 5 off-ramps to reaching a disruptive idea, and there are techniques that are proven that over the last 25 years that we have developed this methodology that regardless of how innovative you think you are, how innovative you think your team is, if you follow these steps, you inevitably land on a really innovative idea.
Great. Thanks, Kaihan. Ritesh, are there any examples where big companies have adopted AI to outthink competition? Ritesh Chen has a question. Are there any examples where big companies have adopted AI to outthink competition?
Yeah, I mean, the AI adoption is kind of, relatively new, relative to the case that we studied. But, I was just in China a couple weeks ago, and what you see is there's a factory there that is making washing machines and refrigerators per individual order. And AI enables many things, but one thing it allows us to do is to reconfigure our production facilities very quickly. It's kind of like if you have Legos and you wanted to build something, it would take some time to think about how you could build this, like a rocket ship from these Legos. But with AI, it can very quickly say, well, to go from a rocket ship to building a castle, here's the instructions. So the instructions for your manufacturing facility now can be very quickly recreated. What that allows us to do is to move towards on-demand production. Now imagine what on-demand production looks like. On-demand production is there is no inventory. There is no anticipating demand, right? The best demand to build for is demand that's already there, the order that's already, there's no risk. And so that is one aspect of AI that a few companies are recognizing that we're moving from. For the last 200 years, what have we done? We have built in preparation or anticipation of order. That's why we have supply chains. That's why we have inventory. That's why we have data to try to predict demand, right? But That could all go away thanks to AI. And a few companies recognize that this is the new paradigm, and they are outthinking with AI. That's one aspect.
Any more questions? Huh? Yeah, Bipin, yes, we got a question from Bipin. Yes, Bipin, you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
So a very good evening, Kaihan.
Evening.
It's morning
I
for
think it's morning for you to.
It is. It is.
So, Kaihan, my name is Bipin, and I'm a CHRO for a $12 million, 25 years old family-run business.
Mm.
And this business is a very, very traditional kind of a business. Now, I don't know. So there are two, three things that I look forward to. One is we have practices which are legacy based. We
Yeah.
have people who follow legacy practices and very, very unshaky in terms of change. And the whole market in this country is very unorganized in this sector. Now, if I have to move this kind of an organization into a rocket pace and create something disruptive, at least me with my limited knowledge, I see too much of a problem case where I don't think I can disrupt this industry. So, how do you think we can do that?
So we can attack it from two different levels. One is at the workshop is coming up with some specific disruptive ideas that you could then implement, and we'll certainly achieve that. 95% of people who go through the process, they say that I've come up with an idea that could be transformative to my business model. But I think you as in the role of CHRO, I think you have an opportunity to have an even bigger impact, because the options that your people see and choose are a function of the strategic narratives that they tell. So we're going to talk about these 36 different strategic narratives. You'll pick a few that you will start implementing through storytelling into the industry, and it will change the paradigm. When Satya Nadella was elected or appointed by the board to be CEO of Microsoft, it symbolized an internal battle between kind of two paradigms. One was the old battle, which was we have to protect the device. We're device centric, at the protect the PC, towards being customer centric and product centric, which is we're going to create great products for customers and we don't care what platform it goes on. And so there are these two conflicting patterns, if you will. And when Satya Nadella was elected, it symbolized that this new paradigm, we're going to make a great product, and we don't care if we distribute it on Android or on iOS. What we care about is serving the customer with a great Office product. That transform the company, right? So introducing one strategic pattern will have an effect on the thousands of decisions that your people make every year that determine what the success is. So I think we can address that from both levels.
Thanks, Kaihan.
Okay,
Look forward to meeting you on 27th and go through the 36 narratives. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Me too. Thank you.
All right, I'm mindful of time. We are about 11 minutes overdue, but I know that people will have a lot of questions. Happy that while 27th, we have a 4-hour masterclass, but I'm sure Kaihan wouldn't mind staying back there if anybody wants to have a one-to-one conversation, quick questions, personal questions. But that workshop is absolutely phenomenal. I'm sure you'll love it. Look forward to seeing you. Anybody, I will ask my team to send this QR code also on a WhatsApp to all those who attended. So in case you missed, you can always just download and just do the registration. Well, thank you very much, Kaihan, for being there.
Thank you.
Very early in the morning, we woke you up. It must be about 7:30 in the morning.
Yes, time? Exactly.
Yes, so
exactly.
Thank you very much for joining in so early in the morning. Look forward to seeing you the week after. Thank you very much, leaders, for being here, and look forward to seeing you on 27th. Have a great weekend ahead, everyone.
Can't wait to see you there.
Yeah, see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, bye, Lohan. Thank you.
Okay, bye. All right, ciao. Bye-bye.